The Art of Happiness Summary, the Dalai Lama. Introduction. The Art of Happiness is a guide to Eastern spiritual traditions for a Western audience. This book addresses all aspects of the human experience, including how to manage common difficulties and live a happy life. Plus how to stay calm in tough and difficult situations. Dr. Howard C. Cutler, a psychiatrist, collaborated on The Art of Happiness. It applies Tibetan Buddhist concepts to assist busy Westerners in achieving more balance and spiritual liberation in their lives. The purpose of your life is to seek happiness. Quote, "So let us reflect on what is truly of value in life, what gives meaning to our lives, and set our priorities on the basis of that. The purpose of our life needs to be positive. We weren't born with the purpose of causing trouble, harming others. For our life to be of value, I think we must develop basic good human qualities: warmth, kindness, compassion. Then our life becomes meaningful and more peaceful, happier." By the Dalai Lama. According to the Dalai Lama, we all share the same goal in life. Regardless of your religious, ethnic, or social background, your goal is to find happiness. Individual cultures' opinions about whether or not happiness is achievable varies. There is a widespread assumption in the West that happiness cannot be produced and sustained by mental training. Buddhism refutes this viewpoint, claiming that happiness is an attainable objective. Success will not provide you long-term happiness, and failure will not bring you long-term sadness. We all revert to our baseline happiness sooner or later. According to the Dalai Lama, psychologists refer to this phenomenon as hedonic adaptation. It makes little difference what happens in your external events, since you will ultimately return to your baseline. As a result, the value of Buddhism is that it teaches you how to raise your basic level of happiness. Do not place joy on the suffering of others. It is easy to slip into the trap of wishing the worst for our adversaries. However, your opponent's unhappiness will not help you maintain long-term happiness. Buddhists devote a significant amount of time to folks they may not necessarily like. They spend this time combating these sentiments, since hatred is a barrier to pleasure. As a result, the Dalai Lama advises practicing patience and tolerance while dealing with difficult people. You should also be glad for the opportunities to interact with foes. These are the times when you can most successfully practice patience. Universal compassion cultivates happiness. Quote, "If you want others to be happy, practice compassion. If you want to be happy, practice compassion." By Dalai Lama. Compassion is a recurring theme in both this book and the Dalai Lama's larger teachings. Compassion is at the heart of Buddhist ideas, and the Dalai Lama thinks that in order to be really joyful, we must be universally compassionate. Compassion, according to the Dalai Lama, is a non-aggressive attitude of mind. It is motivated by a desire to see all other individuals free of pain. This emotion should not be linked to how you feel about certain people or events. Universal compassion, on the other hand, refers to sympathy for all living species in all conditions. Compassion is important because one person's compassion inspires more compassion in others. A happy life is one that is devoid of wrath and resentment. Your ideas will be more positive. The Dalai Lama advises cultivating empathy for people by striving to better comprehend their origins. Once you've mastered this, you can identify and concentrate on the things you share. For example, if a waiter fails to deliver one of the items on your order, you might try to figure out why. The waiter, like you, may be working to support their family. However, the tension and weariness from working hard may have interfered for a little while and led them to make a mistake. We must make connections other than Western love. Quote, "I think that if one is seeking to build a truly satisfying relationship, the best way of bringing this about is to get to know the deeper nature of the person and relate to her or him on that level, instead of merely on the basis of superficial characteristics." By Dalai Lama. Intimate connections, according to the Dalai Lama, are necessary for our bodily and mental well-being. This is not to say that the Western perspective on relationships is perfect. The Dalai Lama considers the West's excessive emphasis on sexual relationships to be detrimental. This strategy marginalizes people who are unable to find a romantic relationship or do not prefer to have a troublesome partner. Furthermore, romantic relationships frequently fail because they are founded on flawed beliefs. They are based on societal ties rather than respect and admiration for the other person. The Dalai Lama claims to have several personal connections with close friends and family members, including teachers and chefs. Rather of perceiving romantic connections as the ultimate relationship, he wants to connect with as many people as possible. He feels that interacting on a deep level with a diverse spectrum of individuals has made his life significantly more fulfilling. Religion is not needed for spirituality. Quote, "So let us reflect on what is truly of value in life, what gives meaning to our lives, and set our priorities on the basis of that. The purpose of our life needs to be positive. We weren't born with the purpose of causing trouble, harming others. For our life to be of value, I think we must develop basic good human qualities: warmth, kindness, compassion. Then our life becomes meaningful and more peaceful, happier." By Dalai Lama. Spirituality is not a religion. Spirituality is an essential component of living a good life, according to the Dalai Lama. However, the Dalai Lama does not argue that spirituality must be derived from a certain faith. He claims that spirituality does not have to be linked to religion in any way. This non-religious spirituality is referred to as fundamental spirituality by the Dalai Lama. Human traits such as kindness and compassion are included in basic spirituality. These characteristics are beneficial to all persons and will assist all cultures in living happier and more peaceful lives. Basic spirituality. The Dalai Lama meditates for 4 hours every day. However, fundamental spirituality is unrelated to religious rituals. Instead, fundamental spirituality may be practiced on a daily and ongoing basis. We may demonstrate compassion in all of our activities by considering the best interests of others. Consider the following scenario: another car has cut you off. Without universal compassion, you may respond with rage and hatred. This response will only make you feel less pleased and serene, and it will also harm the other motorist. Instead, practice simple spirituality by being calm and recognizing that the individual may have made a mistake and missed you. Consider situations when you made mistakes while driving and how you would have wished other drivers to react. Adopting this technique will allow you to reap the advantages of spirituality while avoiding religion. Suffering is natural, but we amplify it. Suffering is a natural aspect of existence. It is normal and cannot always be avoided. Eastern societies, interestingly, are more accommodating of hardship than Westerners. When Westerners suffer, they often see themselves as victims. Easterners, on the other hand, understand that pain will be a part of their lives for as long as they live. Trying to escape pain is merely a temporary fix. Even if we take every precaution to avoid pain, we will all suffer at some point. The most crucial factor is our mental attitude when confronted with hardship. It is preferable to accept pain rather than dread it and see it as unjust. We have a propensity to exaggerate the extent of our sorrow in addition to refusing to acknowledge it. Westerners, for example, place much too much emphasis on stuff. Instead, we must understand that change is unavoidable, and that opposing it will only result in sorrow when it does come. Similarly, Westerners have a tendency to cling to unfavorable experiences. Overthinking earlier negative experiences will simply bring back the pain you felt the first time. As a result, the Dalai Lama proposes that we recognize that both suffering and change are normal. The less concerned we are when both arrive, the less intense our sorrow. Furthermore, we will experience less sorrow since we would not be halting suffering/change. Positive attitudes, feelings, and habits can be encouraged by sustained effort. The Dalai Lama thinks that our mental states influence our emotional moods. Anger and fear, for example, prohibit us from experiencing true happiness. Love, compassion, patience, and generosity, on the other hand, can be antidotes to these negative states of thought. These are the positive mental emotions required to be really joyful. It will take time to replace negative mental states with good ones. The Dalai Lama says that it took him 40 years to grasp and appreciate Buddhist concepts. Learning Buddhist precepts is a process of gradually embedding beneficial behaviors. A meaningful shift will develop as a result of consistent engagement with pleasant states of thought. Try to find the good in every situation. The majority of scenarios will include both benefits and disadvantages. We have a tendency to focus on the negatives. Use difficult situations to practice qualities such as patience and compassion. This is just another technique to cope with the unavoidable hardship that we shall face. These difficult circumstances can be transformed into chances to practice our fundamental spirituality. Those with a pliable mind, according to the Dalai Lama, may recognize the positive in generally bad situations. Anyone may cultivate this pliable mentality by continually attempting to see the advantages in negative situations. The Dalai Lama advises readers to begin practicing recognizing the positive in adversity as soon as possible. It will not be feasible right away, but anyone can grow to adopt this mentality with time. Replace anger and hatred with patience and tolerance. According to the Dalai Lama, the most major hurdles to pleasure for humanity are wrath and hatred. Both of these feelings are destructive to our mental health. Furthermore, they significantly impede our decision-making. The poor judgments that follow only fuel our rage and hatred. We will not be able to conquer these feelings by suppressing them. However, voicing them has the potential to amplify these feelings. As a result, rather than rage, the appropriate response is patience and tolerance. If you can create this thinking via meditation, you will find that anger is no longer the natural response. Attempt to cultivate inner contentment as well. Inner contentment should lower your tension, which will diminish your feelings of rage. Allowing yourself time away from the issue to think logically will assist you in replacing these negative emotions with patience and tolerance. Combat your anxieties by analyzing your thoughts and motives. Quote, "The more honest you are, the more open, the less fear you will have, because there's no anxiety about being exposed or revealed to others." By Dalai Lama. Anxiety and worry are natural reactions. However, experiencing these reactions all the time is harmful. The Dalai Lama advises us to question the notions that cause us anxiety. Replace these negative ideas with good ones. Happiness, excessive worry is nearly usually related with poor self-confidence. One approach is to be open and honest with yourself and others about your strengths and limits. Your fears of failing will be much reduced if you understand that you have limits that might lead to failure. Low self-esteem can sometimes progress to self-hatred. Someone may feel absolutely worthless and perhaps consider suicide. The remedy to such an intense mental state is to remind oneself of the magnificent intelligence and growth potential that exists within every human being. Tibetans regularly examine this in their daily meditations, which may explain why self-hatred is an almost unknown idea in their society.